Growing Up Weird.
Hi, and welcome to Growing Up Weird, the podcast where we explore how the earliest chapters of Western childhoods shape the health stories that we then carry into our adulthoods. Each week, we dig into the newest evidence, understand how it links together, and walk through some of the changes that we in the West could make to give kids decades of better health. Are you ready? Have you got a cup of tea? Good. We begin, as ever, with the news. Guinevere, I have so many bits of news today. So many. I've had to cull out like 6. It's been a big news fortnight.
Yeah, it really has. I've got one little one and one just pretty cool one.
Okay, I'm gonna do a last ditch attempt. No, I can't cull any further. I've still got 3.
Don't worry, just go with 3. Just let's keep it snappy.
Okay. A paper out of Fujian Medical University in Fuzhou, in China, obviously, looked at the long-term impact of childhood exposure to interparental violence on the eventual cancer risk of those kids.
Ooh, wow, okay.
Now, obviously, we all know where this is going, and I don't really include it as a, oh wow, look at this, there's a link here. We all know that there's a link here, but they found a really big link.
Okay.
Like a tripling of risk for certain types of tumours.
Wow.
If you are from one of their cohort. So they looked at 11,825 participants, of which 173 had experienced quite common interparental violence. And normally from man to woman, as you might expect. And they found that of those 173, they had nearly 3 times the risk of certain cancers, which is big numbers.
And I'm assuming they corrected for poverty, for financial insecurity,
and
for all those other predictors.
The numbers got bigger.
What?
Yeah. So,
okay.
They ran 2 models, one of which was corrected only for, hang on, I'm scrolling wildly through the paper here. There we go. They ran 2 models. One was adjusted for age and gender, and one was adjusted for age, gender, educational level, smoking, drinking, and BMI. And once you adjust for all those things, the number's even bigger. Wow. The association is shown to be even stronger.
Yeah.
So, listeners, I don't really include this as a make sure you're not hitting your partner so your kid doesn't get cancer. Basically, make sure you're not hitting your partner. If we're at that level, let's just operate at that level.
Yeah.
I include this because it is yet another marker of how psychological changes in early life, and this is like before the age of 2 or 3, influence much later adulthood health. That's what this podcast is all about. I include this because it is interesting.
Fascinating, thank you.
Gwen, do you want me to pile in with another one, or do you want to chuck one up?
Yeah, do another one.
Okay, another one, and this one I include because I think that we should include negative results more often. On a very similar tack, everybody still assumes, I think, that sleep disturbance in early life, and we know that sleep is all about helping you organise your brain and clean it out, and it's all about allowing inflammatory processes that couldn't be allowed during the day to occur, healing and maintenance and all that. Everybody assumed that early life sleep would decrease your risk of neurodegeneration later in life.
Oh, fascinating.
Now, the interventional study can't really be done here. It's very bad form to go into people's homes and wake up their babies.
For any reason.
To shout through the windows, "Are you asleep? Are you asleep?" Participant was asleep. So you can't really do this in people. So they did it in mice. They took 2 mice, the wild-type mice and the PS19 neurodegeneration model tauopathy style mouse, which is a pretty good model of mice that are very likely to get Alzheimer's. And they disturbed their sleep. Then they looked at how well they could learn at various stages of life, and eventually they looked at their brain size, volume, orientation, amount of white matter, amount of tau protein. Very difficult not to say tau-amoeba, having recently seen the Hail Mary project. If you haven't seen it, you should. I'm not advertising, I just think it's fun. Anyway, what did they find? They found that in wild-type mice, there is no discernible difference. In the much more likely to get Alzheimer's mice, disturbed sleep in early life actually helps them learn a bit better when they're middle-aged, and there was no sign of increased risk or accelerated onset of Alzheimer's.
Interesting, because what I've seen disturbed early sleep in babyhood linked to is increased risk of neurodevelopmental disorders. I guess the thing that's in the back of my mind when I look at animal models of diseases linked to metabolic syndrome and metabolic dysfunction is that we have virtually no good animal models that replicate the very specific disease processes that go on that cause the failure, which is we see as a tau build-up. Even that tau build-up may be many steps down the line. So I guess, one of the questions that I have with that, I'm not in any way saying that I think the results are wrong, but that would just be the caveat that I'd be thinking about when I looked at it.
And
fascinating.
Yeah, I was going to tell these good people that as well. Yeah. It's just nice to have two voices on it. Completely agree. The idea of the model for Alzheimer's, he says, forgetting the name then for a second, being the final stage in the pathology rather than modelling the entire pathological chain. It's wildly different. But I still think that we should applaud authors who publish negative results.
Yes, 100%.
And I still think that it is interesting to see that sleep disturbance and not having ad-lib sleep may not always be for the best. Have you ever felt more refreshed after, say, 7.5 hours than you have after 9?
I'm trying to remember the last.
Do you ever get 9?
No, absolutely. We joke about first night syndrome, don't we? Which is where you've had a whole run of disturbed sleep, and then you have a really good night's sleep, and you feel absolutely terrible.
Just wake up feeling god awful. Yep.
Yeah, fascinating.
Anyway, I thought you'd like those.
Yeah, can I jump in with one?
Yeah, of course you can. Let's have it.
I've got one on neurodegeneration as well.
Do it.
This is a small piece. Do you remember a couple of years, maybe just a year ago, some researchers were looking for real life experiments where sugar was restricted for a very specific portion of time and looking at the outcomes of people who in real world scenario
is this paper in neurology?
It is in neurology.
Was it by Zheng?
Yeah, it was.
Finally.
What? How many episodes are we in? Like 30, and this is the first one where we've both got the same one.
It's a year of podcasting. We've finally got the same piece of news.
Brilliant.
Phenomenal.
It is always, it's really useful. I'm really excited about the output from this group because if I just explain what Greg and I are going, we both read the same paper about.
It's a good paper.
Yeah, so during World War II, there was rationing of different foodstuffs for the UK population in order to protect us against food supply shocks from the war. Barricades
and bombings and all of that.
Exactly.
And it wasn't just during the war. This paper cites that it finished 8 years after the war did, which I find very interesting.
Yeah, and one of the things that was really restricted was sugar consumption. And one of the things I also find very interesting was that in this period of rationing, for many people, diet quality actually really increased because they were given the things that weren't rationed were often vegetables and fruit.
Yeah, sure.
So people had, in general, a much more balanced and healthy diet than many people had beforehand. But one of the big things that was restricted was sugar. Though I do think we should bear in mind the fact that average diet quality also improved during that time because we can't track how much that changed afterwards in a way that we can for sugar.
Sure.
But so people had a period of 12 years, 13 years, where their sugar consumption dropped from about 80 grams per capita for adults down to 40 grams per capita. I looked this up because I actually went through what rationing enabled you to have
40
and how
grams
much
per capita
sugar per day.
So that's still twice the WHO recommended.
Yeah, it's not far off that. And it's still above the NHS, recommended limit for adults.
But it's roughly a fifth of what people ate in the late 80s? Did we get up to 200, 180 something grams?
I don't remember.
Anyway, sorry.
But it was, so it was a very significant difference.
Yep.
And last year they published a paper on the people who the health outcomes of adults who were in the uterus of their mothers, so their mothers were pregnant with them, or they were subjected to rationing while their mothers were pregnant and for the first 2 years of life. They looked at the people who'd had that restricted sugar in very early childhood and tracked what their risk was of high blood pressure and diabetes, and type 2 diabetes down the line.
Biobank data comes back.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a very significant difference. So I think it was about a 35% reduction.
Wow.
Would have to check it. Anyway, so the study or the data they have is on about 65,000 adults, so it's really big. And what this paper looked at was the effect of that period of sugar rationing on their later risk of all-cause dementia and their time taken to get dementia.
Sure.
So what they found was that if people had had low sugar consumption during pregnancy and in the first couple of years of life, then their risk of all-cause dementia was about 25% lower. And that also tied in with a delayed onset, so that people in that group also developed dementia on average about 2.5 years later than in the control group.
So you're 1/4 less likely to get it.
Yeah.
Ish. I'm not sure if stats work
Not
inside
quite.
out.
Yeah.
No, it's not quite.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've only got 75% of the risk of getting it.
Yeah.
And if you do get it, you're going to get a couple of extra years grace before
Yeah.
you get it.
Exactly, and
That's
those are big numbers,
Yeah,
especially
huge.
if we were thinking about any sort of dementia prevention program. That's really big. It also was associated with visible brain changes, so a significant difference
Wow.
in a person's total grey matter volume, and also even in their performance on processing speed and reasoning. So it seemed to be associated, that period of restriction in very early childhood seemed to be associated also with how their brains functioned and even what their brains looked like.
So would it be fair to say that, according to this study, kids who had sugar restricted both while they were gestating and
Yeah.
for a couple of years afterwards
Yeah.
had brains that worked better
Yeah.
for longer
Yeah.
and were less likely to break down eventually?
Yeah, exactly. So that's
That's
throughout
incredible.
the life piece is particularly important.
Yeah.
And obviously, as I said before, this is observational. There's a whole bunch of other things going on, especially around things like altered dietary quality, which may not be just sugar, but it's still a very significant effect in a very large population. And the other piece that I think is important is when we think about neurodegeneration, so dementia, we also think that it overlaps significantly with other types of metabolic problems, including high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes, but the reduction in risk of those wasn't the only thing that reduced the risk of dementia. So I wanted to touch fairly lightly on that because we have talked about this whole study before.
That was the best
That's
paper I
pretty
found.
cool.
That's your little one? The hell is your big one?
Well, the big one actually it's not a research article per se. It's a commentary article
Okay.
in a journal called Pediatrics and Child Health from Lavoie, who is a Canadian pediatric doctor, I believe.
Okay.
And what this article does is it looks at the paediatric neuroscience involved in the safety of leaving a child alone at home.
Interesting. So it sounds like you're saying, can you work out from somebody's brain whether they are safe to be left alone?
Sort of, although actually what she's more highlighting is that there's some big gaps between the sort of legal requirements in parts of Canada where there are age limits, between the societal expectations when we expect children to be developmentally ready to be at home on their own,
Yep.
and actually how brains develop, and the fact that this is not an inevitable process, but is the acquisition of multiple skills.
Sure, I can think of adults who aren't ready to be left alone.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I think this is why I was really delighted to see this article, because it was a very common sense approach to how do we move away from saying all 11-year-olds or all 13-year-olds are ready to be left at home, and instead say what are the aspects, what do we know about how brains learn responsibility, learn problem solving, learn confidence in order to get there? What are the opportunities that children need to practice those skills? How can parents assess whether a child is developmentally ready in a way that protects children from being left alone left home alone too young, but also enables children who are capable not to be deprived of the opportunity to practice those skills inherent in being allowed to be at home on your own.
Yeah, because being denied that opportunity is going to set you back later, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's a really great example of how often we treat development like it's just a process that everyone goes through
rather than a series of
steps.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so, the paper does, it gives ideas for things that children should be able to do before they are left alone, how you might be able to recognise it, can they recognise potential dangers, do they know what to do they follow safety rules consistently, do they know how to call for help, can they be calm during an unexpected event, do they understand household boundaries like, answering the door or not using the stove, all of these kind of pieces. But so it's a commentary, it's not a study, but what it does, I think, is help the conversation around how do we think about children left at home alone.
Interesting. And interesting to see that the UK legal approach to being pragmatic with that question of what age is the right age is to say, we don't bloody know. That's a parent's job to figure out. So we're not going to put a number in law. We're just going to say, you can't leave them alone before they're ready, and then wash our hands of it.
Yeah.
Which I quite like.
I mean, it's more pragmatic than, I think in Canada it varies between an age limit of 16 to be home alone.
Whoa.
Which is, in the UK that's old enough to have your first baby, right?
Yeah.
Whoa. It's a good thing that you're then allowed to be at home your own.
You could get married and have a baby and not be able to be alone.
It's bizarre, isn't it? And so it's just trying to put some of these legal things on a slightly more standardised biological framework rather than just leaving it up to the whim of policymakers. I think one thing that I do often think about, though, which is not really within the scope of this article, but when you have a group of children, they behave differently from an individual.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And that can, if you have multiple children who leave at home alone, you have to think, is there a risk that they will egg each other on, in which case they will need a higher age to be alone?
Yep.
Or are they used to solving problems on their own and working together at a team? They can keep each other calm and go through the steps, in which case the age is younger. And clearly that is incredibly hard to legislate for, but I think we can overlook the system when we focus in a very reductionist way on an individual.
One of the, just slightly tangenting here, one of the most interesting parts of my job when I was a monkey vet in the jungle in Nigeria was group dynamics, trying to work out which monkeys of a certain species would be put together into a cohesive group that would moderate each other and try things and not just utterly fly off the handle when they couldn't open the feeder or whatever. I'd never considered that my children are like a group of rare monkeys, but they are.
Yeah, I did a whole study for the Rabbit Welfare Association and Fund on whether rabbits are likely to stay friends if they're of different sexes. I know we all have other specialist interests apart from this podcast. But so actually, if you have male and female rabbits, they usually like each other a lot. If you have two pairs of rabbits of the same sex, they're much more likely to stop liking each other and have a fight.
Interesting.
But if you have three, in which by definition there is always a pair of the animals of the same sex.
Okay, yeah, sure.
At least in the vast majority
that's fair.
of cases.
Yeah, I'm with you.
They are much more stable than any of those individual single-sex pairs. So there is a network effect that moderates those influences.
Okay. I wonder if that's true of children left alone. If you have two girls, chaos. Two boys, chaos. A girl and a boy, absolutely fine. And any additional number, absolutely fine.
Who knows?
Do not quote me on that, internet. I was making that up. I just wonder. I'm curious.
But cool paper, right? And cool topic to publish in a journal of neuroscience.
Yeah, not as cool, to my mind, as, what happened to these people who didn't have sugar? But,
Still pretty cool.
Still pretty cool. Absolutely. I can't believe we had the same piece of news after a year of trying. That's wicked.
We knew it was going to come.
We did. Guinevere.
Yeah.
You wrote another article.
I did.
It's a good one. I like it. It is For anybody who hasn't read it, pause here, go read it. Or don't, whatever, I'm not your mum. It's about frustration. Mm-hmm. What is frustration?
So frustration, annoyingly, as I found when I was trying to write this article, refers to two slightly different things. And one is something that stops you doing what you are wanting to do.
Keep talking, I want to look something up.
And so something that stops you doing what you want to do, then you can be frustrated in your goal. But the emotional response to being frustrated in what you want to do is also called frustration. So it is kind of two separate things. One that is an emotion inside you, and one that is a kind of characteristic of a situation.
3 things.
Okay, go for it.
It's also a board game from the 1970s.
Oh, I remember we had frustration. I had a little dome that you pressed it and it went ping, and like the dice. I love that game.
Good. Okay. I just needed to check. It's 3 things. 1, not being able to do the thing you want. 2, feeling upset about not being able to do the thing you want. And 3, a weird board game from the 70s.
I love it.
Okay. So that's frustration. Mm-hmm. What is frustration tolerance?
Frustration tolerance is the ability to control your emotional response to a frustrating situation.
Interesting. Now, this is why you need to pull apart those first 2 types of frustration, right? Because it's not about being able to control your emotional response to a bad emotional response. Mm-hmm. That's nonsensical. No. It is about having something happen to you that means you can't do the thing you want or have the thing you want and going, and finding some other way to proceed with your life.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. I just wanted to labour that point because it confused the heck out of me.
Yeah, I know. It made that article really difficult to write till I understood the difference.
Okay. Right. So, frustration tolerance. Mm-hmm. Fantastically important.
Yeah.
Why?
Frustration tolerance enables you to keep trying to solve a problem even when there are multiple things that prevent you doing it. And what that means is that you are able to persevere to get to a goal. It means that you are able to do difficult things because there is a promise of a reward and a reward at the end of it. Mm-hmm. And it means that you can deal with social interactions and relationships in a way that is constructive rather than destructive.
Because those are things that will always present a barrier.
Yeah.
You will always have a frustrating situation because you're dealing with people and people are like that.
Exactly, and they're not you.
Yeah.
And they have other motivations and other priorities. You cannot control all of them.
Oh, I'm going to take us on another silly tangent for a second. We live in if you're listening to this in the far future, we are living through a period of the very first relationships between people and their own AI reflection. Mm-hmm. And there have been multiple cases now of people having friendships with what is in effect their own echo chamber. Mm-hmm. And I wonder whether that is a type of interpersonal relationship you can have when you don't have any frustration tolerance.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think one of the really interesting things about frustration tolerance, I'm just going to unpick a little bit more, especially as it relates to that, is that we often think about 5 different elements, and I wonder which of those are particularly relevant to
Run us through the 5.
An AI relationship. I think, did I say 5 or 4?
You said 5, but you were holding up 4 fingers. So.
I lost the ability to count momentarily. It's fine, I have an AI to do that for me. So, frustration tolerance is the ability to deal with discomfort, to deal with not getting what you want, to deal with difficult emotions, and to deal with not achieving what you want.
Yeah, that is 4.
So I'm guessing that especially an AI is much more about, I'm not sure you necessarily get maybe you get what you want, I don't know, but I guess it's more about the avoiding unpleasant emotions.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, sorry. Frustration tolerance allows you to have relationships with actual human beings in a professional and personal context and a romantic context and all of those different contexts. And I'm just parroting back here. I'm your own little bubble chamber.
Thank you.
That's not bubble chamber. That's about tracking radiation. Echo chamber. I wish I had a bubble chamber. That'd be wicked. No, so
you said about relationships.
I did, and then I was going to go on to saying it instead of having just one shot at a target.
Yeah.
You have in effect a minigun.
Yeah.
Because you can just keep on going, just keep trying. Because every time it doesn't work, you try something else.
Yeah.
Which you can't do if you freak out and run away if it doesn't work.
Exactly.
Fine. I very much count myself amongst the freak out and run away crew.
No.
No?
You're so much more frustration tolerant than I am. Do you remember that time in Tanzania where you approached 23 taxi drivers and you're like, this is my budget, can we go here? And they all said no.
Yes.
And then the 24th said yes.
Yes.
I don't think I'd have got past 5. I still have that in my mind. Like, he went to 24 taxi drivers, and not all together. It wasn't like an
an all-day thing.
It was just an all-day thing. You just kept going, and you finally, you're like, someone will do it, and you. Oh.
Okay. To be clear here, that 24th guy did want me to sit on somebody's lap for like a 6-hour journey.
That is true.
And I weigh like 105 kilos. So it wasn't that I'd have been uncomfortable. I just worried I would have been responsible for death. Okay, I get it. I understand now why frustration tolerance is important. Now, I almost said something very stupid then, which is, surely it's built in. Doesn't seem to be. Why am I meeting so many people who are not frustration tolerant?
I think there are three elements, and we're going to cover those in this article and the next 2.
3 separate articles for the 3 separate limbs of failure to become frustration tolerant.
Exactly.
What is this article?
So, as many of you know who've been following this for a while, typically we look at what is it about an environment that doesn't give us what we need at the times that we need it in order to develop good long-term physical function. Mm-hmm. And those, I think the environmental aspects here is that we're in environments which don't reduce parental frustration. So parents are often modelling frustration, and if a child sees a parent freaking out at little things, that child is likely to think that is the way that you respond to those frustrating scenarios.
Hang on a second. How can an environment be set up to promote frustration, the showing of frustration behaviours? What is it we're talking about here?
Well, and very simply, an environment can be set up to make parents show frustration behaviours when there are a lot of elements in that environment
which are mad frustrating.
Okay. Yeah. And so maybe we have parents who haven't had the ability to develop their own frustration tolerance skills as well as they might in different places.
Sure.
But also, I would say that our Western cultural way in which we expect parents to parent is incredibly humanly frustrating.
Oh, you mean getting absolutely everything right, devoting yourself 100% to your offspring, having no time for yourself, having 0 sleep, and having no help.
Precisely. All of those things. Mad frustrating.
Mad frustrating.
Yeah.
Okay, I see that.
That's why, it's just so hard for parents to remain calm all the time.
It's interesting. Is this the right point for me to say? I also like that little bit in your article where you said that possibly our culture rewards the failure of frustration tolerance. We like a bit of drama.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So I read it and it made me think of a little bit from Parks and Rec, the whole treat yourself thing. This has been very difficult. You should be allowed to do whatever you want. Attitude, which I love. I mean, I'm a millennial. Give me avocado toast and a very expensive latte. But I also love watching people absolutely lose their shit over the minorest of inconveniences because it's hilarious. And they get a big pat on the back and a massive reward, and we all go and solve the problem together. And that kind of group solution, rather than relying on yourself to go, hang on, deep breath. Yes, that was very frustrating, but I'm still going to solve that. I wonder if that's an outcome of how interconnected we all are at the moment.
Yeah, really interesting, because we know that there are cultures where frustration shown by adults is almost taboo.
Yeah, it's mocked.
It's mocked. Yeah, exactly. If you're an adult that shows frustration, you're an adult who's suddenly behaving like a child. Like, it is a really strong cultural pressures not to show frustration.
Yeah.
And in some ways, one would think if we're in an environment where there is a lot of help, then signalling when you need help is a very valuable thing to do. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting that actually in some of the cultures where we did observe it, maybe there was less help with smaller groups. I'm not sure.
Maybe. So I'm hypothesizing wildly here, and please take this with a massive asterisk, my dear listener. Potentially, in the cultures where we saw failure of frustration tolerance being taboo, there are multiple situations in which you have difficult things to do by yourself.
Yeah.
In which the skills to cry for help are useless. But the skills to go, I've got an electric eel on this wire, I need to get rid of it. Or I've got 12 snares to set before sundown, I'm already being bitten by mosquitoes, I've just been stung by a massive bloody ant.
Yeah.
I need to get this done or I'm not going to eat tomorrow. I think that's quite interesting.
Yeah, and I think it is interesting because you mentioned about our very interconnected nature of our culture now.
Yep.
But that interconnection is not necessarily having people who can help you with your problems. Do you know what I mean?
do.
You've got a lot of more superficial contact. You've got much less physical contact. Potentially there is a bit of a mismatch between how we have developed culturally to request help and actually how much help there is physically available in our lives now. I
Fascinating.
hadn't thought about that.
Love a tangent. That's
yeah,
my
that was a
third.
tangent.
I will stop. I'm sorry. Okay. So we're reducing the environment's ability to cause parental frustration.
Yeah.
How are we doing that?
So what we said here was looking for opportunities to let other people guide our children. And I think that is something that often we can take as a very personal or an attack on us if another adult gives advice to our children or parents our children.
Everybody hates a teacher.
Yeah, everyone hates a teacher, but actually children often really listen to a different adult in a way that they don't listen to a parent.
Yeah.
And they learn that people do things differently, that people have different boundaries. And I think it's something that we often, because we have an initial frustration and fear and insecurity response, we sometimes don't see the value. But I think allowing other people to give our children guidance is one way to reduce your own frustration, because then you're not having to do all of those things yourself.
I assume that we're including the fact that it also gives you just a break.
Yeah. Oh my
Just
goodness.
a nap or just a chance to do some of the stuff that was making you frustrated in the first place and raising your stress levels because somebody else is parenting for a sec.
Yeah. Well, on a very similar vein then, the more you can get your kids to help you around the house, the less you have to do.
Yes, I liked
Exactly
that bit.
Making more time for yourself and feeling less irritated with entitled children who aren't helping.
Yeah, I'm feeling pride,
Yeah.
right? I've been very frustrated with kids, our kids.
Yeah.
I don't feel very frustrated with many other people's kids. That's there's no point. They're not mine. I don't have to worry about that. Like, oh, you're being a fool. That's fine. You're not mine. Carry on. But when you feel pride about something your kid's done, you're not frustrated with them for days.
Yeah, that's true.
Hours at least. Minutes, maybe. Okay.
Yeah, true.
Carry on. What else we got?
And then getting more sleep. And again,
Yeah.
this is the really annoying way where you're like, I know I should get more sleep, but
Yes.
I can't sleep. I don't have the time to sleep.
Every 24-hour day
I've tried,
must contain 6 hours of yoga, 45 hours of work,
exactly.
and 9 hours of sleep.
So I put it on here just because it helps your brain to feel less reactive.
Yeah.
And it's an obvious thing to try and achieve, but with all of the caveats that I've just raised.
Yeah.
But the other thing I think we talked about was getting other people to help us notice our own frustration.
This was interesting.
Yeah, and so that's not just, but it might be your colleague or your friend and another adult who can be like, you all right? Just checking in. That sounded like that. Just to help you notice when you're behaving in a way that is frustrated, that comes across as frustrated.
Yeah.
And finally, I shared a story about how I used the children to help me notice when I was coming across as frustrated.
She uses the past participle here, used, whereas actually the word is am using.
Amusing.
Currently using the children as frustratiometers.
Yeah, exactly.
Very effectively.
It's really effective. When the children, again, I love a hand signal. We've talked about hand signals before.
It's true.
Because if a child uses a hand signal to you, or if you use a hand signal to a child, it's much less confrontational. It's kind of, you have to think, it's very quiet, you can't be cross with a hand. There's a whole bunch of reasons hand signals are great. But getting a child to give you a hand signal when they feel like you're frustrated, just gives you a pause to reflect. Am I frustrated? Is there any other way I can communicate this? Do I need to be frustrated? Is this is it worth it? Mm-hmm. I think just, having a look at shining light on the response can be really valuable.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. Those were 4 different ways to change your environment to reduce the amount of frustration offered by it.
Yeah.
And to be clear here, we're talking about frustration to the parent. Frustration to the child or to the baby will be covered in Articles 2 and 3 and Podcasts 2 and 3 to go with Articles 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Nice. Really enjoyed that. Any closing statement on that then?
I don't think I have a closing statement on
How frustrating.
How frustrating.
Should have saved it for the end. Do we have a listener question?
We do have a listener question.
What is it?
And it's a good one. While trying to keep your young children from added sugar, does this mean that you don't let them have any foods that have any sugar at all? And do you think differently about processed foods versus home-cooked foods?
I have strong feelings about this one.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to give my answer and I'm going to
Yeah.
ask you for your perspective.
Yeah.
But from a biological perspective, there is a threshold of sugar in food that is dealt with by your gut without it ever going into your bloodstream because you have certain microbes that break it down. So that means that we know that some amount of sugar in food is very unlikely to cause health effects. But the question with sugar and children is less, at sort of low levels, it's less about what is the biology and more about, for me, what is the taste preference.
Yeah.
So for me, there is a difference between, does this food taste sweet? Am I making it sweet so it is more palatable and it tastes a bit sweet? In that situation, I don't use sugar. I wouldn't use sugar to sweeten porridge. I wouldn't use sugar to make like a non-sugar cake more appealing.
It's been so long since you used sugar. She has no idea what it's for.
Well, no, yeah, no.
You grind it up, you put it on a mirror, scrape it up with a razor blade.
Well, it sounds pretty stupid to say I wouldn't use sugar to make something taste sweet. But I honestly think that is probably the way that I think about it. However, I would use sugar in something where putting a bit of sweetness brings out a flavour, but the thing doesn't taste sweet. It's just altering the flavour profile. I hope that helps a little bit, but I don't have a blanket no sugar, but I do try to avoid anything that is sweetened just in order to be sweeter. And my kind of cut-off with processed foods is if there is more than 5% of sugar on the nutritional guidelines, so carbohydrates of which sugars, then we don't feed it.
Don't have it in the house.
Don't have it in the house.
I think the question's a red herring.
Ooh.
Please read me the question again.
While trying to keep your young children from added sugar.
Stop. Trying to keep your young children from added sugar. Okay, keep going.
Does this mean you don't let them have...
Stop. Don't let them have.
Yeah.
Right. Those two things are massive markers of a different mindset around food. And this popped up at a party I was at recently with a bunch of very enormously old people. No, I'm just teasing my mum here because it was her 70th and it was full of other 70-year-olds. And one of them said, it's what are you going to do with your kids, though, when they go around to a friend's house and the friend's got sweet food? How are you going to keep them away from sweet food then? And I was like, my friend, I'm not keeping them away from anything. I've just clearly communicated the evidence of how bad for you sugar is, what it tastes like, where you find it, and how you can know what's got it in. At this point, they're old enough that it's on them. Like the older two, especially the 7 and the 9-year-old, you can give them a Cadbury's Cream Deluxe whipped chocolate nonsense cake, and they'll look at it and go, "Oh, that smells sweet. That tastes very sweet. Let me just check the back. Oh, that's full of sugar. You know what? I would rather throw this out than eat it." It's not about what you let your kids have. It's about what you teach them to want. A fun trick to this that I love talking about because it's a nice little piece of veterinary medicine is that dogs, rats, and us monkeys have a nice little piece of programming where if you see a conspecific that another member of the same species eat something and then look incredibly nauseous or retch or vomit, you're not going to eat that. And so if, like me, you have a small child and in front of that small child you eat something with sugar in it, like something clearly that you have said, "Oh, this is very sweet, this has got sugar in it," and then you eat it, and then you do your best piece of like Oscar-worthy acting and you look sick as a dog and potentially retch a couple of times, they won't go near it. They will not touch sweet food with a barge pole. And if you can associate it with tasting like medicine or something else, they've got completely non-reward, non-excited, non-celebratory reaction to sugar in food. It's not about what you let your kids eat. It's about what you teach them to want.
Mm-hmm.
That's
great.
That's
Thank
what I
you
wanted
very
to
much.
add.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
That was fun. I'm feeling slightly fired up now. Which is a pity because it's bedtime. Okay, so folks, it's been fun. It's been wild. It's been wicked. It hasn't been frustrating. You've been listening to Growing Up Weird with me, Dr. Greg Dickens, and
Me, Dr. Gwen Bradbury.
catch you next time.
Bye.